Hello, my name is Kwan Sial. In this video, I will be helping Clovis College Information System students complete their graphics design for the web project. I'll guide you step by step through GIMP as we work on Project 2. Please have the directions either printed out or open on your computer so you can follow along as I go through the steps. In this video, I'll show you how to customize logos using templates in GIMP. The main goal is to help you learn the tools, not just to find a logo that suits your taste. By the end, you'll have the skills to create and refine a logo that reflects more of your own personal style. So let's go ahead and look at the directions for this project. So there's three parts. Actually, there's more than three parts. Let's see how many there are. There's four parts. And there's going to be quite a few files you need to submit. But if you follow the steps, you'll figure out how many files you need to submit in total. So the first thing we need to do is download the templates and the font. So the zip file will be located in our Canvas page in the week 2 module. Um, so you can just click on this and then click on this link again to download the logos template, the zip file, and then download it depending on how you organize your school files into the appropriate location where you can find it again. I don't need to download it again since I already have it. But yes, you can find it in the week 2 module. The next thing we need to do before we open up GIMP is that we'll be using a Grand Hotel font, which I think is really nicely designed for one of the logos. So you can download it by just clicking on this link here, and it will take you to, once again, Font Squirrel, and then download the Grand Hotel font. Once again, it's a good idea to extract the font. So let me go ahead and download it just to see, just so you know what I'm talking about. Okay. Right click on it, hit extract all. If you're on a Mac, when you right click on it, it says something like use archive utility, which is the same thing as extracting. So go ahead and hit extract all, and then it already opened what I extracted. Double click on the font, and then click install. I don't need to do it again since I've already done it, but this is what you need to do to have this font installed for GIMP. And it looks nice. I like how kind of like the cursive font. This is something we don't really practice anymore. Yeah. I remember writing cursive, and the only reason why we learned to write cursive is to have a cool signature. Anyways, um, yeah, let's move on. So that take care of the first two steps. So let's go ahead and open up GIMP. Okay. And as you can see, I like to have GIMP open on the right and have the directions on the left. So this is finding the best way to complete this project. So we're going to open quite a few files. We're going to open 5 files, starting with 43 PSD and ending with banner. Um, so you know the ways to do that is just go to File, Open. You just have to locate the zip file, the logo that you downloaded, and then already extracted some out. So let me go ahead and make sure I pick the right one. So I'm gonna, you notice I'm selecting multiple files by holding Control and then left clicking on them. Actually, we don't need 84. Yeah, we're actually going to open up 4 files. So I'll update the directions so that 84 is not there. However, we do want to open arrows, banners, and then so that's 4 files. Sorry, so we're not opening 5. So you want to go ahead and hit convert, and then just keep clicking convert, and then just click OK on a compatibility notice, because if you don't realize they're actually PSD files, which is a Photoshop document, but it just shows you that GIMP works pretty well with Photoshop documents, there are some features that will not be able to, I guess, import because, right, so there's certain features of Adobe that it's proprietary, so it's not open source, so they can't exactly replicate whatever features that's there. But for us, it functions good enough. And hit convert. Okay, convert. All right. So you notice you kind of have to do that 4 times, right? Because we opened 4 files, and you notice they're all open up here in the thumbnail preview on the top. So this is how you can navigate easily between the project files instead of having to, right, go into your file um, navigator and then find the different files and open them one at a time. This is a nice little feature of GIMP that allows you to view multiple projects within one window. So, right. Once again, so we want to start with 43. So let me go ahead and strike off what we've done. So we want to start with 43.psd. And then it's good to kind of zoom out. So once again, if you don't remember, it's Control-Shift-J to fit image in window to kind of see the overall design of this logo. It looks pretty neat. I like it. It has kind of like an Art Deco feel to it. Um, and I'm a sucker for Art Deco, by the way. All right, so one of the things we're going to want to do is change the color. So if you don't really have like a set color palette or color theme, a good place to go is this website here. So let me go ahead and click on that, hit allow. So this is called color.hex. Remember, HTML color values are hexadecimal values, hence the word color hex. And so here's some nice color palettes that other people have arranged together. So let me go ahead and pick one. Yeah, let me go ahead and try soft and muted. Okay, and you notice the hex values are here. They even have the RGB. Um, so, so the first things we want to do is recolor the frame. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just make sure the frame layer is selected. Then go to color, colorize, and I'm gonna do that light purple color here. I'm gonna copy, so it's Control C on the keyboard, and then in the HTML notation field, I'm gonna paste that. Okay, and you notice the colors changed. It's pretty accurate. If you want to finesse it somewhere, you can. So one of the easiest way to do it is adjust the lightness to make it darker or lighter. So I'm gonna make it a little bit darker. And then you could mess around with saturation hue. I don't really recommend messing too much with hue because if you do, it changes the color, right? So defeating the whole purpose of why you even pick a color if you change the hue. I mean, unless, right, you want to complement an like a gradient color, maybe. So I'm gonna revert back to what I started with. I repaste that HTML color code. Actually, I kind of like it darker. Yeah, let's go with that. All right, so let's go back to our directions. All right, so yeah, I did all those steps. Now we want to update the text. So I don't think there's anybody in this class called Megan, right? So don't submit your logo, your project, your first logo project with the word Megan, right? That's how I know you did not follow the directions completely. What I want you to do is change it to your name or your brand. Okay. So unfortunately, you can't just like how you before. If it's like a native, most likely if it was a native XCF file, like the native GIMP file, we could have just click on Megan, right, and hit on T, and then right change the wording. But this is right originally a Photoshop document, so we just have to basically find the font, find the size, find the color, and then kind of size it appropriately to the frame. Okay, it's It might sound a lot, but it's actually good. So that way you can fine tune it a little bit more to your taste. So let me go ahead and turn off the word Megan Wright for now, so I can just focus on inputting my name. I think a good starting point is number one is we want to use, let's see here. Okay, I neglect to mention that for this part, we want to use the Grand Hotel. So I'll update the directions to say that. So before we even start writing, we can do some more modifications or some settings, configurations of the text. So go ahead and instead of whatever default font it was at, you want to type in Grand Hotel or just Grand. Don't need to type the whole thing out. And you notice when you do it, it does autocomplete. So you could just hit type the word Grand and then you can select the font itself. And then a good starting point actually is about 400. Okay. Now for this one, use a different color. So use at least 3 colors for this first logo. So go back to the color palette and just choose another color. So I'm gonna go with that light green color. Right? Now you can just start typing. So type out your name. Okay. And then you want to move it. So I find out if you hit M right now, it will type the letter M like that. But if you hit escape, then and hit M, it selects the move tool. So that's the way to do it. Okay. So that looks pretty good, but I'm gonna make it bigger. So hit T, and then double click to select the entire text. If you have a long name, you might have to adjust the text border so that it fills in one line. Because like if you do this, right, you notice my last name dropped down. So if you have a longer name or a longer brand name, you might have to expand the font border so it fills one line. Okay. So I'm gonna make it like 500 and see what that looks like. See, you notice it didn't auto expand anymore. There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna go with 500. Right. Hit escape. Hit M to move. Once again, shortcut keys is really helpful here. Kind of make sure when you arrange it, right, you don't want to make it so it intersects with the frame. So you notice my S is a little off, but I don't want to worry about too much at that for now. So let's go with that. The other thing you can also do, if you go back to the text feature, is you can expand the spacing between each letters by, is it going to show it to you? Well, it's this option here. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like by just type in like a random value like 20. Oh, it doesn't autofill anymore. Let me just click it incrementally. You see what happens? It expands. So I kind of actually like it at 20. Yeah. Yeah, so this is really up to you if you want to increase the spacing between the letters. All right, so let me go ahead and hit escape. Now I want to focus on the word photography. And let me go ahead and check those directions off that I've done. Yep. And you notice I do have the direction for the specific font for the word photography. So the direction also says resize and reposition it so that it appears smaller and is beneath your name. Okay, so this is a little bit big right now. So I'm going to take out the word photography, go to the text, um, change the font size so it's at least half of what you're using earlier. Go back to the color palette. This time I'm going to use this pink blush color. Okay. Click in your project and just type in small caps of photography. Oh, uh, I forgot to change the font, but let me go and do that now. So you notice I hit Control A to select all my font, or you could just double click until all the words are selected. Let me go back to directions to see what font I should use. So it should be Gill. And then you notice you can just instead of typing the whole thing out, you want Gill Sans MT regular. Okay. Hit escape, hit M. You might have to hit escape multiple times in order to select the move tool with the keyboard. Okay, kind of range it. And then I notice, right, it still has that spacing between each words. I want to condense it somewhere, so I'm going to hit T, double click on the word, maybe 10, see what that looks like. Word 0, let me see what 0 looks like. I like 10. Yeah, just play around with it and hit escape. So you um, are able to choose the move tool when you don't see these um, text box features. So, yep, now I can hit M, then move. And make sure when you move, you notice that finger. That finger means I'm moving the background. So that's not a good place to click and drag. Once you see the white 4 directional arrows, that's you're actually moving the layer. Okay? All right, so now I'm going to move it down here. All right. So it's just a roughly arranged text at the moment. We're going to center the text better. So to do that, we need to create a new layer group and then drag the 2 text layers into this group. So I'm going to drag my name in there and drag the word photography. You notice I drop it into the word layer group, and then I'm going to just rearrange it so it flows better. Then if I just select the layer group, then I can just now go ahead and hit Q on the keyboard and then hit align vertically middle and then horizontal middle alignment. Okay. And then hit background. Yep, that looks good. Yeah. So this is something you should remember for my first project. We did quite a bit of that. All right. Go ahead and kind of rearrange this better. Oh, it's this thing. Yeah, there we go. All right. All right. Now we want to go ahead and export our project. So what you want to do now is go to File, Export As, right? And then just use this naming format. So I can just copy and paste it since this is me doing it. Oops, it didn't work. Yeah, there we go. Um, Once again, just make sure you save it in a location where you can find it again. Stick with PNG for this particular export. So, okay, so that's that. So hopefully you remember this step as well from our prior project. Now we're going to do a little bit more advanced customization. So let's go ahead and select the 53.psd template, which is this one. This is so let me go ahead and Control Shift J. Select the background layer just so we could take out the annoying selector box there. So this, just to give you a heads up, this template is a little bit finicky, especially when you color, then move the different layers. It removes the color, and then you have to recolor again. So just to give you a heads up that you might just want to really avoid rearranging layers because it makes it a little bit hard to maintain the color you've chosen. So speaking of color, for this particular logo, we want to recolor the banner. So right now you notice it's kind of like an orange color. And if you guys don't know, Jackie Robinson is um, a famous baseball player that broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball. Yeah, the first African American baseball player in Major League. Anyways, um, we're gonna skip this step. We don't need to save it, resave it, because my initial thought was if I save it as XCF file, it might make it more stable when it comes to our edits. But once again, right, we're actually working with Photoshop documents, and it made it a little bit unstable. So I'm going to remove that step. But let's go ahead and choose another color. Once again, if you need help with colors, you can always go to this color hex website. So let me go ahead and just use this color and then change it. So it's that. So you notice it matches that color now. It's a little bit lighter, interestingly enough. Right? And then we want to select the bucket tool, which is this one, or we can hit Shift B. So once again, I like to use shortcut keys. So I'm going to hit Shift B. And you notice my icon has changed so that it has a bucket in there. Now, it's a little tricky at first, right? At first, you would think, okay, banner, color. Oh, nothing's going on. Because, right, you notice at the bottom here it says cannot modify the pixel of layer groups. This is actually a layer group you're looking at. You notice there's a little arrow here that we can click on expand, and there we go. This is where we can actually fill the colors. Okay. So let's start with the top. Once again, you want your crosshair to be over where you want to change the color. Because right, if you click here, well, you can't because it's the background. But if you click this, right, there you go. It'll change this color here. Now it won't change the right, because it's a different layer. So we need to select the right layer, change that, and make sure you notice, right? I was trying to demonstrate what happens if you don't click in the right spot. I mean, you might actually like that, but for the purpose of this project, you want to actually change the color of the pennant here. Okay. All right, there we go. Now let me show you what I mean when the color doesn't really stay when you rearrange the layer. So let me go ahead and do that. See what happened? Yeah, it's an interesting glitch with this particular PSD file. Just be aware, different files, different logo template files may have different glitches. So yeah. Anyways, it's as simple as going back to them and recoloring. We're not doing anything too complex here. All right, so that's it. So we did that. Yep. All right, so now we want to replace the banner. The banner not necessarily being this one. I think the better word is replace the frame. So I think I'll retitle this in our direction to says replace the frame. Okay. So let's go ahead and go to the banner file. It could be EXCF or the PSD doc extension, doesn't really matter. So here, pick out I guess, a banner slash frame that you like. So if you notice, right, since the word is straight, picking a diagonal frame banner like this is not a good idea. Okay. This one is too similar, so you want to pick something different. So I'm going to pick this one. Okay. So once again, if you're on a laptop with a touchpad and no mouse, use the zoom tool. Draw a box over the area you want to zoom in on, and it will zoom into that area. However, if you have a mouse, you can just hold Control and roll the mouse wheel up to zoom in and roll the mouse wheel down to zoom out, which I find that to be much more convenient. And you could have just hit F on the keyboard. So I'm going to do that. You notice it turned into a lasso. And like a lasso, you want to form a loop in order. So like if you do this, that's not a loop, okay? And then you notice when I let go, it just forms straight lines now. So you might just want to keep clicking. If you let go a little too early, like say you're on a touchpad, until you reach the end and you click the end. And you know that you completed your selection when there's a dashed line like this. This one is a little iffy because if you notice, yeah, that wasn't a good select. You notice the corner of this border here wasn't selected. So I'm gonna go to Control Shift A, which is the shortcut key for select none. Um, and I'm gonna try selecting again. A better job this time. So I'm gonna draw a wider box around. Notice it doesn't have to be completely oval. There we go. And then I'm gonna use the shortcut key of copy, which is Control C, and then go back to my project 53, I believe, and then hit Control V. Okay. And you notice to call it banner copy. All right. So you notice it's a little bit small. So if I turn off the frame, right, I'm replacing that frame. And you notice the framing kind of envelops the stars and the word photography. So that means that we need to rescale it. Okay, so let me go ahead and strike out what we've done so far. So now we're going to have to use the scale tool to resize the new banner slash frame we just added. And then for the sake of organization, I would just rename it as well. Frame new, like that. Okay. So if you don't remember, the scale tool is, there it is. Yeah, it's Shift S. My bad. Huh. All right, let's try this again. There you go. Feel free to keep it unlocked, meaning that that it's not locked in a ratio, because right, it's not going to be exact ratio that would allow us to cover the star in the word photography. So first thing I'm going to do is going to drag it up, then drag it down. Really, we only need to cover the word photography, right? So I'm going to adjust it, fine tune it a little bit, and then drag this out so that it includes the pennant. Yep. And then hit scale when you're done. You can always rescale it later. I'm going to take out the frame here. Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and arrange it. Okay. Yeah, so it looks like I need to scale a little bit more. So Shift S again. I'm going to scale it up so that the top star is completely covered. And then hit the word scale. All right, that looks good. All right. There's a few more things to add to the project. So we're going to add some elements, additional elements besides changing out the frame. So it's the arrows here. By all means, pick the different arrows, but I don't recommend these cross arrows. Okay. I want to demonstrate what a horizontal transformation looks like. So pick a one directional arrow. Okay. So I'm going to pick this one. So I'm going to choose the free select tool, which is, I believe, F. F stands for free select. Yeah. So I'm going to pick this arrow. So I'm going to zoom in. Once again, when you select, don't do it this way, right? Oh yeah, and I didn't close the loop. You know, this is a bad selection because it selected the feather of the other arrows. So I'm gonna Control Shift A, and then just do a more accurate selection. You notice when you close the loop, where there's a yellow circle that appears, this is, yep, this is where you can let go. And then you have this nice animation here to say, now I can copy that element. Let's go back to our logo and then Control V on your, oh yeah, hopefully you remember by now, Control C is copy and then Control V is paste. Okay, you don't really see it. So let's go ahead and turn off the frame, turn off the banner. Oh, there it is. So let's go ahead and move it. Once again, don't, one way to address, right, when you paste new layers and then it's not visible is to put it on the top layer. But like I mentioned, it glitches the color that you've modified. So I'm not going to move the layer, I'm going to move the object. So I'm going to hit M on the keyboard, hover until I get this white forward directional arrow, then move it down. Okay. And then review all the other layers, well, except for the old frame. Reveal the banner. Okay. Okay. Now I can kind of arrange it. Yeah. So I'm going to create another arrow, but have it flip horizontally. So we kind of did that in the prior project, if you can remember when we cut out the diamond to create that banner. But we're going to do it so we can flip elements. All right, so let me go ahead and hit Control C, Control V, drag this thing up, because when you paste something, it pastes where the previous layer was. So you just have to click and drag up to see the new layer. And then go to Layer, Transform, and flip horizontally. Okay, and kind of rearrange it so it's kind of like symmetric in a way. Okay. Hit the background layer to see. Okay, I think that's good enough. Yeah. All right, so this is this is all done for this part. Got quite a few done. Yep. So let's go to export the second logo. So you want to go to File, Export As, rename it. So I can just copy and paste since it's my project. Once again, just if it's default is this like downloads or desktop, if that's where you know where you can find your files, that's fine. But for me, I always like to be a little bit more organized. You notice I have a project 2 folder, and so I put all my stuff in my project 2 folder. Hit export. Yep. Stick with defaults and export again. So that's done. All right. So part 3. So this is where you can actually start creating a logo to your taste and style. However, we're going to do it through modifications. Okay. So hopefully out of the 92 available logos, there's something you might like. So don't start from scratch. If you That's something you can do on your own. But so let's instead of opening each file one by 92 files through GIMP and then having to click through each one to kind of see it, I had a thumbnail preview in the logo template. So let me go ahead and just extract it, just to make sure it's there. Oh, it's another folder. Okay, so open it up. If you scroll to the very bottom, you notice there's a thumbnails of logos here. So this should be all, yep, this is all 92 previews, thumbnails of the logos. Full screen, whatever photo viewer app you're using, and then zoom in. It might be a little pixelated, but right, you're just trying to get an idea of which logo you like to mess around with. Okay. All right, so let me see here. Yeah, I'm gonna just demonstrate. Let's say I like number 84 with a branch. So that, which is, I guess, what. Yeah. Anyways, let's go with that. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm gonna open up 84. So let's go to File, Open. So you just have to find once again where you've downloaded the logo template. Oh, sorry, that's a zip file, right? There we go. 84. Yeah. See, it doesn't really. Oh, it does give you a preview, but it takes a while. You click it, it loads it, but it's just much faster to use the thumbnail snapshot that I've included. Okay, let's open that. Just be aware of the compatibility issues that this particular template has with GIMP. Go ahead and convert it. Control Shift J to view the entire logo. So there you go. Here you can once again apply what you learned. Let's specifically for our first logo to change it to your name. You might want to change the word photography to the word design, but you can stick to the word photography. Let's say you're running your own photography studio. So yeah, so for this project, you can feel free to stick the word the subtitles photography or the tagline photography, but add elements or delete elements. Okay. All right. So besides using banners and arrows, you can use elements from other logos. So let me go ahead and demonstrate how you can do that. First off, make sure you're in the background layer of an element that you're trying to copy, and then zoom in. So I like this particular flower feathery effect. So once again, I'm going to use the free select tool by hitting F or a lasso around it. Okay. And instead of using Control C, which would have copied the layer, which so happens for this layer, it's the white background. I actually want to copy this particular element. So I want to do, let me go and show you what it looks like in a text menu. I want to do what they call copy visible, okay, which is done through Shift Control C, or you can just go to Edit, select Copy Visible, okay. Then go to your logo that you picked out that you want to customize to your liking. I'm going to just turn off that element, click on the background, and hit Control V. There it is. Okay. If you don't do copy visible, you would just copy the background, which is a white uh, loop. And you're like, where did it go? Okay. Once again, you want to hit M to move it. Oops. M. Yep. There we go. And you can put it here or here to emphasize different parts of your name or logo. Okay. So before I go, let me go ahead and or end this guided video. Let me go ahead and close out what we want to do, um, exporting your logo. Okay, we've been exporting our logo already, but we want to export the logo for printing and for the web, just to kind of demonstrate the different requirements for those two things. So let me go ahead and cross out what I've done. I might want to retitle that last step to something else. Yeah, let's go ahead and export this logo as is, I guess. Yeah, export as. Once again, this is be logo 3 now. I'm gonna let's save it in here. Yep, export. All right. All right, so that could complete that step for the export logo section. I should call it exporting your logo for printing and the internet and the web. So when you export for printing, more often than not, it's you kind of pixels doesn't translate well to what you actually see physically. So it's always good to change the dimensions, the units from pixels to inches, so you can get an idea of the actual physical size of whatever project you're working with. The other thing about printing as well is when let's say you're printing T-shirts and you're printing, let's say, on a green shirt, and then you want your logo, right? Not to have that, you want your logo to have a transparent background. So obviously for this logo, well, not a green shirt, for this logo, a black shirt would be better. All right, so we're gonna turn off the background layer by just making it not visible. And you notice when I do that, the pasted layer has a white background still. So to easily remove that, because it's a little hard to kind of manually select it and then delete the background, we want to use the fuzzy select tool. Okay. If you read the description, it says select a continuous region of the basis of a color. So when it's ideally, when you click on, let's say, white, it will only select white. And in this case, it works really well. So let me go and zoom in, kind of show you what that looks like. Actually, let me use, if I click down on my mouse, I can actually pan yeah. If I click down on the mouse wheel, I can pan my view without moving the project. Yep. It's the same thing as moving the horizontal bar and the vertical bar. Yep. Anyways, so you can see that it did a good job of just selecting the white. So then it would allows me to hit delete on the keyboard to remove the white around the pasted layer. Okay. Let me go ahead and do Control Shift A and then Control Shift J to zoom out. It's a little hard to see, but if I turn on the background layer, you can see everything's still there still. And then here, let me go ahead and actually do what I was trying to do earlier, which is really go to scale image and then resize it for printing. So let's say I want it by 8" by 8", kind of like the back of a t-shirt. So make sure you change your pixels to inches, and you notice it sets to 10. Now you want to go ahead and just type 8. You click on the other one, you should, since it's linked, the height should also be 8, right? Because the logo is a square. And then hit scale. And you notice it visibly showed you that it's been scaled smaller. Okay. You notice the pixel size also has been reduced. Makes sense. So a 24 by 2400 pixel icon translates to about 8" by 8". Now you can go ahead and export as. And then already call it print, but you would need to type that in and then save it where you can find it. This is in my project 2 folder and already done it. Yep. Okay. Now let's go ahead and turn on the white background. And then we're actually going to go ahead and um, scale it down some or even smaller so that it shows well on the web. If you're not aware, especially on mobile phones, images are actually really tiny. They're just blown up. So if you actually show like 3,000 pixels by 3,000 pixels on your phone, it'll look something like really zoom in like this, right? Because it's a one-to-one zoom. Well, let me show you what a one-to-one zoom will look like. Yeah, it'll look like that. You won't be able to see the whole thing, right? So what your phone does is actually what I just did is do a zoom image to window. So for your phone, it'll be zoom image to screen. Okay. So really, you don't need a high pixel count. In fact, 500 by 500 for a logo is actually pretty big already. Logos are actually displayed much smaller. So a 500 by 500 is actually a pretty big size for a logo. But for this practice, we're actually going to size it that way. So once again, when we go to image, scale image, and if it's on inches, you want to make sure it's back to pixels. And instead of 2400, we're going to do 500 by 500 scale. You notice how much smaller it's become, but then if I just hit Control Shift J, it still looks pretty good. You kind of see it's a little bit pixelated now. So let's go ahead and export this file as a JPEG though. Okay, so that's why I turned the background back on, because if you don't remember, JPEG does not support transparency, but JPEG does a really good job of reducing the size of the file. So let me show you what that looks like. So it's not going to be print anymore. Just delete the word print and just type in web, change the .png to .jpg, hit export. You notice the setting is a little bit different now. You have this quality option. In fact, you can lower it down pretty low, but 90% compression is actually pretty good. So JPEG is almost like a zip version, zipping or image, so it's smaller, so it can upload and download faster. And if you do it right, it still maintain the quality. So let me go and export it. Let me find my JPEG that I just exported. So you notice for me, I can see the file extension. So here it is, the JPEG, and I could just look for the word web. Yeah, yep, that's what it looks like. Yeah, it looks decent. Okay. And then if you look at the word print, where's the print one? And you notice you don't have the white background for this one. Okay. And just a reminder for for your third logo, do not stick with the default names, right? You're not Samantha Amore. Okay. Change that so it's your name. But you can keep the word subtitles photography. But yeah, like I said, for this project, pretend that you're opening your photography shop. Okay. All right. So good luck on your project. Just be aware you'll be submitting, I believe, 5 export files, 4 PNG and 1 JPEG. All right. So good luck on project 2, and um, we'll see you again for our next video.